Hi, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. I am your humble servant, ASHU, NYENTY in Yaoundé, inside the presidency returns after the election recess. Today, we revisit President Paul Biya's address to the youth on the 10th of February and his plans to begin the reconstruction of the Northwest and Southwest regions with the example of the PAMOL plantations in Indian Division in the Southwest region, plus the last electoral season. Our guest the program today is Mr. Charles MEKANYA OKON. He is the Director General of PAMOL plantations. But before he comes on board, ladies and gentlemen, let us go back to our machines for what has been making news around the presidential actions.
It is definitely not the first time and certainly not the last for the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, to demonstrate in the most explicit and the most convincing manner his pretty strong affection and solidarity for his compatriots living far away from home. Be it in sad or joyous moments, the head of state has been with them every step of the way. Come to think of the recent repatriation back home at the behest of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, of some 250 bona fide citizens of Cameroonian nationality trapped in the illegal sale of humans in war-torn Libya. They all arrived at Simaland International Airport to join their families safe and sound, plus the September 2015 Mina Stampede disaster in Saudi Arabia that killed some 21 Cameroonian pilgrims. President Paul Biya was quick to put the situation under control, ensuring the safe return of the survivors and a befitting burial for those who unfortunately lost their lives. Today, it is the case of the corona deadly virus in China, with 200 Cameroonian citizens quarantined in the city of Wuhan, the epicenter of the epidemic. And in a very spontaneous manner, the President of the Republic has ordered for the disbursement of a colossal sum of 50 million CFA francs to assist his fellow citizens in Wuhan, China, who, according to Cameroon government officials in the Ministry of External Relations, are in good health. In other words, free from the ravaging coronavirus. By this executive order, issued by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, Cameroon joined some of the great nations across the globe, like the United States of America, Japan, and Canada, whose leaders have provided substantial assistance for the safety of their citizens. And by this magnanimous gesture, President Paul Biya has proven beyond the shadow of any possible doubt that his magnanimity is consistent and that his commitment to the welfare of the Cameroonian people is non-negotiable wherever they find themselves, and regardless of their tribe or their political inclination.
Thank you once more, ladies and gentlemen. I told you at the beginning of this program, my guest today is Mr. Charles MEKANYA OKON. He is the Director General of PAMOL plantations, but he's also the section president of the CPDM for the Ndian 1 section, that is in Mondeba. Mr. MEKANYA, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
It is always a pleasure for us to reflect the national character of our program when we have a gentleman like you from the countryside.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Now, this program today, we're going to look at 3 different issues. We're going to revisit President Paul Biya's address to the young people, to the youth, on the 10th of February, and then we'll look at President Paul Biya's, implementation of the, the resolve to reconstruct economically the Northwest and Southwest regions because of the crisis, passing through PAMOL plantations, for example, is just one example, and then the last political season. Now, if you have no objection, I would suggest that we begin with the first one, that is President Paul Biya's address to the youths. In that address on the 10th of February, the President chastised the youth and warned them against certain vices like alcoholism, drugs, and violent conduct, which is enveloping some young people nowadays. So how serious at these vices in the area you come from?
I think it's a very worrying issue throughout the national territory. With us, I think we have been very with these issues, and we closely followed the President's speech to the youth, where these were addressed, and it's quite sympathetic to find that youth have been involved in this abuse of drugs. And the abuse has stemmed from, in fact, they've gone right into the school milieu, which is a very worrying issue.
Is it a big problem in your area, in Indian division in general?
Well, it is in the school milieu, not in Indian per se, but I think that in the southwest, for instance, the university milieu in Buea is known to be very rife in that, because most children, some of them tend of not even going to school because of this drug abuse. And sometimes they embarrass their parents that they spent some 3 years, and some only realize that at the end of it, when they're graduating, that their children did not go to school. And this is a very vexing a very vexing situation. In the plantations where we operate, we know that drugs, workers take these drugs because they think that it enhances their performances. And that's what it does. They will tell you. They will tell you that, okay, when I take maybe tramadol, it helps us to boost our effort, to boost our performance.
Which is not true.
Well, that's what they say. That's what they say.
But it is dangerous for the health.
This is the abuse of it. The abuse of it. When is it an abuse? When we take to the extent where it disturbs your health and that of others, and that is where youths are falling prey, and that is what has even led us into this crisis, because people have been pushed to think that vandalism and violence can pay. It is quite a sad situation. So we, all of us, joined the effort of the head of state to try to preach and make sure that this incident is reduced to the barest minimum.
It becomes all the more worrying when one considers the fact that we have, there are many laws which, try to prohibit such conduct, sale of alcohol in certain milieux, especially, I talk about University of Buea within the academic environment. There are many laws, but we still see these vices being rampant in our society. Well,
this, when I say Buea University, we talk about the students. All the students are not in 10. Most of the students are...
They live out campus.
They live out of campus, and no, you cannot control them. You cannot control their activities. You only realize that this is what is happening through what is reported by your relations with some of their intercourse with some of the students who will tell you that this is what happens there, and many children fall prey, and they're led into vices which are not tolerated.
Now, who has a role to play here to improve the situation?
I think all of us.
All of us? What do you mean by all of us?
The civil society, the parents, the students, the teachers, everybody who is concerned with the welfare of Cameroonians should be worried that drug abuse must be stopped. And every sane person should know that this cannot be tolerated. I think all of us must join hands to make sure that we try and fight this
vice.
Yeah, this vice in the society.
Mm. You talked about the president's address to the youth. Did you listen to that address personally?
I did. I went through. I followed it through. Everybody.
Where were you? Maybe in the family?
Yes, I was with my the family at home, and we were watching. We wanted to package to see what would the package for the youths this time. He talked about unemployment. He talked about the effort the government is doing to what the government is doing to
provide jobs
for the youth.
But let me ask you, since you watched that address, did it meet your benchmarks?
I think the government is making a lot of efforts. In fact, what all of us fail to understand is that right from, let me say long ago, the government has been constantly employing the youths without saying so. I'll give you examples. All these schools, like Cornwall, the gendarmerie, the police, every year they recruitment. But in silence. These are avenues of employment open to the youths, which we must accept that efforts are being made, tremendous efforts are being made to provide youths with employment. And the government cannot do all. That is why I think the school curriculum now, they have now turned into professionalizing the academics to make sure that when children leave school, they can be able to fend for themselves, open industries, open avenues where they can even employ others in joint ventures and so forth. So I think that it's a well thought idea which is being promulgated by the state.
Okay. Now, you listen to that address, that speech. What, in your view, should have been the take-home message?
That all of us, as I continue to say all of us, because nobody should exempt himself from this fight. All of us must join our heads, join our efforts to make sure we preach to the youths, preach to our children to stop these vices of drug abuse. Because I went to social media and saw in one of the secondary schools, I'm sure here in Yaoundé, girls were smoking marijuana in school. It was scandalous. I found it outrageous. I don't know how they could tolerate it to be even pictured and put on social media. So for them, it means nothing. And this is what the school should fight against. I'm sure the authorities are trying their effort, doing everything to stop these vices, as I say.
Okay, Mr. Charles MEKANYA OKON, that response from you will permit us to take our first pause on this program. Let us revisit our machines to get excerpts, some other details of what President Paul Biya said to his young compatriots on the 10th of February, 2020. President Paul Biya once again in his traditional February 10 address had a frank talk with his young compatriots. The address was rational in tone, guided by the present context in the country and driven by a global discourse dynamic of coherence. In form and substance, three major themes easily emerged. These are the reawakening of national consciousness, the strengthening of historical ties, and above all, the acceleration of decentralization with a special premium to the Northwest and Southwest regions.
The major national dialogue paved the way for adoption by Parliament of the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities and a law which guarantees the use of English and French on an equal footing. Without delay, I promulgated these instruments into law. Therefore, nothing stands in the way of their application anymore. This is indeed a peaceful revolution that meets the aspirations of our fellow citizens to greater participation in the management of local affairs. Besides, the northwest and southwest regions have been granted a special status with provision reflecting their social and cultural specificities.
In an environment marked by an exponential rise in the flashpoints of dangers and vices, the head of state enjoined his young compatriots to steer clear, to turn their backs on deviant behavior that has enveloped some of them, and others seek to become the embodiments of peace. Again, they have missed their way in the northwest and southwest regions, have a role to play here.
Not long ago, during a Council of Ministers meeting, I requested the government to consider designing a national drug and alcohol abuse control plan. Such abuse had reached an alarming level among the Cameroonian youth. Once more, I am calling on the government today to redouble its efforts to combat this scourge. I also avail myself of the opportunity of this Youth Day celebration to again appeal to our young patriots in the northwest and southwest regions, those who have allowed themselves to be lured into armed gangs and who continue to maintain a climate of insecurity in these two regions should lay down their weapons like many who have already done so and who are living peacefully in our communities. Once again, I urge them to come out of the bush and rejoin their other fellow young citizens who are leading normal lives in our society.
In rounding off, Paul Biya reminded the youth to borrow a leaf out of the book of their forebears who toiled to get Cameroon to where it is today.
60 years ago, when I was your age, Cameroon gained its independence. That had been the dream of the youth in those days, and that dream came true. The task ahead was huge. We were aware of this. It took a lot of effort, but also blood and tears to get to where we are today. Generations of youth like you devoted their lives for us to get here. We have no reason to be ashamed of what they achieved.
In the address, Mr. President demonstrated to the youth that he is at the same time a fine pedagogue, a consummate pater familias, an artful bridge builder, and above all, an optimist, especially in the face of a segment of the population that lives a saggy feeling that upon life's billows, they are tempest tossed. In our previous conversation, you said you began to dig into this aspect of the violence that has enveloped the northwest and the southwest regions, and you are the Director General of PAMOL Plantations, one of the structures that is said to have been very, very much affected. How affected have you been throughout these 3 years of running crisis in the northwest and southwest regions? What have you lost in the process as a structure?
In fact, I will tell you that if you follow the history of this event, and Dian Division and PAMOL in particular have been the hardest hit in all this foolishness.
When you say hardest hit, what do you mean?
We've lost a lot in terms of infrastructure, in terms of income, in terms of revenue that we are supposed to have made.
Can you give us some specific figures?
Yes, I would let you know that from what the audit we made at the end of 2018, we lost through violence, through vandalism, we lost 1.4 billion francs worth of equipment, both mobile and immobile, in all our estates. In Bai, I'll just give a few examples. In Bai, we lost.
Bai is a locality in
Bai
Division.
is one of our estates in Bai in the Meme Division, where we grow rubber. We lost 2 tractors, a lorry, and a mini factory, which was handling our crop there. In Lobe, we lost heavy equipment, machineries, vehicles, so many things which were vandalized. Our tanks were hit by gunshots, and we lost a lot of oil. In Dian, same thing happened. Not only the stores were broken into, and many items taken away, which up to this moment we are unable to trace because we have gone into searching out all around the estate to find out if we could even see some of those very vital equipment for the factory, and we have been able to find. So in Bakassi, we lost a bulldozer, new bulldozer that we just bought. You know what a bulldozer cost? 400 million francs and above. We lost that. We lost 70,000 seedlings, which were planted. We raised this nursery to plant for the next year, because every year it was programmed that every year, because we have, after the 500 hectares which were made, in the second phase of our development, we had to progressively, every year, it was programmed that every year we grow 1,000, we plant 1,000 hectares to meet up with the 10,000 hectare plan which the government made for the Bakassi region. Because not only did they fund this, but also gave us a land bank of...
you mean the government?
Yes, of 10,000 hectares of land in the Bakassi vicinity, which we are supposed to be planted, as I say, progressively every year. And again, because of this, the government came up with this package where they said, okay, you already have 6,500 hectares of oil palm in Indian estate. So they have to also be a facility to help mill this crop. Not only this one from the estate, existing estate, but that of Bakassi.
Now, before coming to what the government has done, we're talking about the losses that you incurred as a structure.
Yes.
And beyond that, we'll come back to what the government has done, especially President Paul Biya, the assistance he has given to your structure. But what did, you are located in Indian Division, what did the surrounding communities lose by virtue of the fact that you lost a lot?
It's interesting to tell you that Indian Division is lucky to have the soils which are very suitable for the growth of oil palm. And most of the farmers, most of the smallholders grow oil palm. We have a policy in PAMOL that started since the 1980s, where the workers were encouraged that everybody there, if you have the possibility, open up a small farm with oil palm so that you can be able to sell your crop. You have a ready market in the plantation where all your crop can be sold. So everybody, so much of the population, I will tell you that right now we have more than 2,000 smallholders who depend on PAMOL, depend on the PAMOL to sell their crop, which they are unable to for 3 years going. All of us are smallholders. All of us. We have lost heavily in this crisis. That's why I tell you that the hardest hit.
And then these 2,000 smallholders, there's a multiplier effect. They don't have,
of course,
can't send their children to school.
They can't send their children to, of course, that's the means of revenue. What can you do? There's nothing. And let me tell you, when we had this, during the presidential elections, we went for the campaigns. And at that time, a bag of rice in Mundemba cost 30,000 francs.
A bag of rice?
A bag of rice. A bag of rice which is sold here for 18,000, 16,000 francs. In Mundemba cost 30,000 francs. I nearly wept for a population that had been deprived of all resources, from everything that they had. They can't go to their farms because the vandals told that if you have to go to your farm, you have to pay a ransom. Sometimes you don't risk going because it was so bad that the population was constrained only to stay in Moneba and do farms only within the vicinity. How much products can come from it? How much food can come from that area? So those who didn't run away, those who endured to stay, had so much to pay for this. I think it was a very sad situation, and it was so sad that what we had to complement, we had to go and buy 100 bags of rice to send to the people there to be able to reduce the stress on the few bags which were left there for the community. I think that's all we could have done at that time. It is a situation where if you haven't gone through it, you wouldn't understand what we are crying about. And
as you were going through this situation, the President of the Republic, President Paul Biya, had decided, well, a proposal that came from the major national dialogue, decided to come to the assistance, well, in the process of reconstructing the Northwest and Southwest regions. Economically, PAMOL is one of the beneficiaries. We want to have more information on what the President has done in terms of helping PAMOL to be on its feet again. Well,
I think I was fortunate to have been part of all that arrangement and in the Committee for Rehabilitation. I participated fully in the dialogue, and not only what came out from the major national dialogue, but even before then, I would tell you that the government has been doing so much to get PAMOL out of the doldrums. PAMOL are vestiges of colonialism. And the whole thing started in 1895 when the British got concessions in Buinga and in Bai. In 1925, that's where the plantations is, and then gradually moved to Ndian in 1923 and to Lobe in 1935. So these concessions is what had built up this company. And in 1935, they built their first mill, which went for 40 years, and it only in the mid-60s, 1960s, that these mills were refurbished. Now, the government looked at this and said, what do we do? PAMOL went into liquidation for 10 years. And during those 10 years, the company were unable to pay taxes. They were not paying taxes because the government wanted to maintain the employ of the workers. So absorbed all what the company was supposed to pay to the government. So this left the government to look at how to salvage the company. I will tell you that in 2009, the first gift which the company had from the government was a write-off of taxes of 2.3 billion francs by the then Minister of Finance. Then, in 2013, after the contract plan, or the joint investment plan, was signed between the government and PAMOL. The government approved a package of 14 billion francs for the company. This package was with 8.5 billion francs for the factory. The new factory to be built, as I mentioned earlier, to absorb the extension of the Bakassi extension program, and 1 billion francs for the Bakassi development program itself at that time. So when we get into all this and look at in 2017, the government again, 2018, the government again approved about 13 billion francs of tax write-off for the company, because they saw that the company could not withstand the pressure and would not be able to run if this pressure wasn't taken away from the company. So all in all, ever since the government started to help PAMOL, to salvage PAMOL from this predicament, the government has put in, directly or indirectly, cash and write-offs close to 30 billion francs as package. In fact, I will tell you a story. In 2018, I was invited by the Prime Minister at the time. And when I met him, he told me, you have a certified check here from the presidency. I couldn't understand what he meant. He said, just sit down. I sat down and asked the director of the committee to go and bring the check in quotes. So when he came, he brought a letter from the presidency that instructed that the debts of PAMOL should be written off, and a package of 8.5 billion francs should be made available for PAMOL for the new mill. He himself couldn't understand. He said, how did you manage to get this gift from the president? I was overwhelmed. I think there's nothing to say than to thank the president for this gift, because I'm not sure many companies have been fortunate to have this sort of assistance like what PAMOL has had. And
have you been putting the money into good use?
The money is meant for building, first for building a new factory. The money is available. The first 2 billion francs were transferred to Malaysia, where the mill is being manufactured, and we are in the process of sending, because by the contract agreement signed between the Malaysia and Cameroon government, we have to send monies in phases. Unfortunately, the disbursement of the money has dragged because of this crisis. Else, the mill would have been completed, because the mill is built in between 2 to 3 years, and would have had that mill functioning. In fact, we had plans to start the new mill this January. Unfortunately, as I say, the treasury has been difficult for reasons all of us know. It's no fault of the government. They have the will to do it, but the resources have to come as they are available. And the government is making a lot of effort. I would not even end there. I will let you know that when the government found that PAMOL had gone for about a year without salaries, the Minister of Finance gave a grant and said they were going to pay PAMOL about 3 billion francs to pay wages for the workers during that period. And the first phase for 6 months was they disbursed 1.2 billion francs, which helped to alleviate the sufferings of the people. And that was paid, and we are waiting for the next phase to be given because he promised 1 year. So all of us, all workers waiting for the next phase. And this has even helped that the people have the courage, have had the courage to begin. I will tell you that after some time without work, the workers made up their minds to start work and bring back and start the factory in Lobe and Dian. We made an attempt in April to start that of Lobe, but we were attacked by those vandals, those terrorists, and they blew off our water point, which is one of our sources of functioning there for the mill, because we consume a lot of water. And so that venture was flopped after we spent a lot of money in that. Then in September, we moved to Dian Estate, where we tried to force it, and we succeeded. I would say we succeeded because since then, the Indian part of the factory is functioning up to now, and we have been able to get close to 800 tons of oil since then, and we're waiting for the roads to be open to be able to start evacuating our products. But fortunately, we came here to make a cry to the government, and I was received by the Prime Minister, who promised to do something. And he told me the military will come and open up the road, because you know when a road, even if it started, and a road had been for 3 years without use, it is invaded by herbs and grass and forest. So they're now opening the road from Kumba, and right now they are between Kondotiti and Mundemba to see how the road can be made open to. So the government is making a lot of effort to see this dream that the president had approved to get a third road from Kumba, in fact, I would say from Tombel, from Lum through Tombel to Kumba and Mundemba and Aqua. Okay. So this is what we are counting on, and it's coming. And when we see the enthusiasm, we see the effort, we see how willing the government is to alleviate the sufferings of the people in that area. And everybody knows this, that without roads, there will be no development.
Okay. So that's a bigger challenge now. Thank you very much, Mr. Director General, for that insight. That will enable us to take a second pause on this program to see how governments, President Paul Biya's government's assistance has begun to bring back life and activity, not only in PAMOL, but in the entire Indian division, the economy of that locality. As you tell us, Staffman Charles Ebune.
Almost completely destroyed by secessionist incursions for roughly 4 years now. This is part of the physical outlook of one of the most important enterprises located in Dian Division.
A few months ago, PAMOL came up and at least wiped off our tears. Temporarily, we saw PAMOL very much present in our area. We were producing crops and they were buying. However, it rekindled some hope in us that at least PAMOL is back. And we have kept on praying that the government should continue to support PAMOL so that because PAMOL is the back wire of the economy of Dian Division. As far as children going to school, as far as everything is concerned, it's PAMOL.
Thousands of people are employed by PAMOL plantations, a more than 4 decades old agro-industrial company operating in Cameroon and based in Lobe, Dian Division, southwest region of Cameroon.
I think PAMOL is trying. They've been taking our crops just of recent. They pay.
Aware of the value of the corporation, which produces 1 out of the 4 liters of oil in Cameroon, the government has embarked on a restructuring program.
The Indian oil mill was commissioned in 1968. Looking at that date, that year of commissioning, is a very old factory. And with the expansion in our plantations, we actually need a new factory, because initially this factory was designed for 15 tons per hour, and at an extraction rate of 20 you go to a production of 3 tons of oil per hour. But looking at our expansions in the plantations, we need to go up to a new factory, modern factory of 30 tons per hour.
This is part of the reconstruction plan for the Northwest and Southwest regions, one of the key benchmarks of the national dialogue held last year to end the stalemate in the Northwest and Southwest regions of Cameroon.
Something like 11 billion can get us a new factory.
It take time to build up, so that is what is happening now.
Ordered by the President of the Republic, the PAMOL Rebirth initiative is a multi-billion CFA francs project to consume at least 1 billion for a new oil factory plant in Dian, others in the Bakassi area, and about 12 billion tax and social insurance write-off.
This is a clear demonstration that life is already very sound in this division. We came to commune with the population.
Since the palm, because of this crisis, our palms are completely dark. We need to bring them up.
This is a huge step, once more, and an enough policy proof that the government, through the President of the Republic, willy-nilly, wants to restore normalcy to the business world found in trouble-hit areas of Cameroon, Dian Division included.
Okay, Mr. Director General, we are going to discuss our last theme, that is the last electoral season. You were Central Committee delegates to Njan Division, to Njan 1, Mundemba, is that?
Yes, Mundemba subdivision. I was the president of the Electoral Commission.
So how do you assess the process this far?
I think
the new electoral map that apparently has come to be.
Well, I think in our part, we are proud that we are part of those who, being section president, part of those who gave the CPDM a win in the Southwest.
And isn't the task for your national president, who is also the president of the Republic?
Yes, I think we are always committed to our cause, and when we take a decision to be section president, and when you take a decision to be a militant of the CPDM, you have to abide by the rules and regulations of the party and make sure the flag of the party is kept afloat all the time. And that's what we try to do. And Dian has never faltered. And
you have always kept the faith.
We have always been there, even during the crisis, even when people were afraid to wear CPDM uniform everywhere. People wore CPDM uniform in Mundemba, and I think we are proud about that.
Now, how would you appreciate President Paul Biya's idea to introduce new blood? You see, so many young people have been elected either as mayors or as municipal councillors and national members of the National Assembly.
But it is but natural that we have to be prepared to hand over to the youths. But sometimes it is the youths who shy away from politics. But I think there's a new consciousness where I see enthusiasm from them to participate in the affairs of, in the political affairs in their localities and even the national. I think it's really, we salute that, and we thank the ingenuity of the head of state to have put that into action, to make sure that the youths take responsibility for their future. And there's a massive participation and a massive change at the helm of the councils all over in Dian, especially, and also in the Southwest generally. I'm talking about where I know, yes.
Okay, we shall be coming back to the Director General for his closing moment, but a time for us to go back to our machines to look at what the new political configuration in the country, barring the areas where National Assembly elections have been annulled for now. So we'll look at the new picture of who gets what, who is where, as you tell us, Staff Lady Enanga Kebi.
According to the final results of the twin elections of February 9, 2020, for the representatives of the National Assembly and the local municipal magistrates, a new political chart has been carved for Cameroon's democratic enhancement. With a participation rate of 45.98% for the legislative elections, following the number of registered voters nationwide, representing different political parties, a total of 8 parties will be represented in the new legislature compared to 5 in the previous one. The ruling CPDM party with 139 seats tops the list. The NUDP of Bello Buba Maigari comes second, followed by the SDF of Nijon Frundi, then the PCRN of Cabral Libi, the CDU of Adabudam Joya, FSNC of Isa Chiroma Bakari, MDR of Dakoli Daisala, and UMS of Pierre Kwemu. So far, 3 new political parties will be making their maiden entrance into the lower house of the Assembly for the very first time. They are the PCRN, the FSNC, and the UMS. The 2 dropouts from the parliamentary scene included the UPC, while the CRM did not participate in the elections. But the race for the parliamentary representation is far from over, following the cancellation of election results in 11 constituencies by the Constitutional Council. They include 10 in the Northwest region and 1 in the Southwest region. This concerns a total of 13 seats in the National Assembly. The election results of 167 approved members of the National Assembly were not contested in the Constitutional Council, or the Council rejected the petitions. While awaiting the results of the election rerun in the 11 constituencies, the stage for the operations for the start of the 10th legislative period in Cameroon's National Assembly is already set. As for the municipal elections, where the municipal magistrates and the councillors for the entire 360 municipalities are already known, the ruling CPDM party once more proved its worth as the leader in the race. In 2 regions out of 10, the CPDM is in control of all the councils. These are the South and the Southwest regions. In the rest of the 8 regions, the CPDM dominates the list of mayors and councillors, followed by the UNDP. Here too, power sharing at the base will be highly competitive. The SDF is the biggest loser in its Northwest stronghold, thereby losing 34 municipalities, including those in the Southwest and the littoral regions. Of the 21 municipalities in the Adamawa, the CPDM is in control of 11, while the UNDP has 9 councils. They are sharing council seats in MEKANYA and Gaundary 3. In the far north, the CPDM is leading in 3 councils, followed by the UNDP and the FSNC. The new parties in the management of council affairs include the FSNC in Marwa 1 and 2 and in the North region, the MDR in the far north, and UMS in the West region. The new municipal map has also witnessed the disappearance of the post of government delegates in 11 towns. With the effective territorial decentralization in view, the new map will usher in the post of a super-elected mayor in the place of government delegates. With the new political dispensation, Cameroon's democracy has been described by many as mature and with a prospect of achieving emergence as envisaged by its chief executive, Paul Biya.
Now, the Director General, we are rounding off this conversation. I must say it has been quite an enriching conversation with you. What message do you have for the young people who are watching and listening to you right now, based on what the head of state has said and the reconstruction process which has begun, the economy of the Southwest, for example, especially with PAMOL, you have developed what the government is able to do. Put all of that together. What message will you have for the young people of this country?
That they should have confidence in the government first. I just give a simple example, that when I met a prime minister and he promised that they were going to do something to send a military to do the road, and effectively, right now I'm telling you that they're on the way. So they don't only talk, they put their words in action. So the youth must have faith in the government. They must join the government. All of us, I continue to say all of us, must participate. It is supposed to be a community-based effort in everything we do to throw away violence and try to bring peace, give peace a chance. So we see that those of us whom the head of state has called to come and join the ranks, those of us who are in the bushes, who have been asked to come and join the ranks, should come and know that effectively this, it means business. Because I will let you know that we just gave assistance to some guys in the, those who gave up arms and in...
Those who have laid down the arms?
They did a center in Boya. And we've told them, and all of them are so sympathetic that they are apologetic for what they did. And I think, I'm not sure they would, if you ask them to go back to do what they were doing, they would accept. So that's just that effort to make sure that those who are still in the bush should know that they have to come back.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll leave you with this catchphrase from our guest, that the government does not only talk, but the government walks its talk. Thank you very much, Mr. Charles MEKANYA OKON, for being our guest.
Thank you very much for focusing on PAMOL and gender vision. I'm very delighted.
Thanks for keeping the faith. Goodbye.